Yeah, can you hear me now? Volume.
In which you're speaking, can you bring it closer to yourself? Can you go closer to the microphone? क्या करें? What can we do?
नहीं है, volume नहीं है ना?
Are you through a laptop?
Yeah, it's through a laptop.
It's through a laptop, yes.
Can you hear me now?
It's better.
Very.
It's there's let's maintain silence here. It's better if you can bring yourself a little bit closer to the microphone of the laptop. It would also help. My question to you is: you were present on the Jinnah Avenue, which is a several kilometer long road. Where were you at the time? What was happening? And what you saw? This is what my question to you is.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Mohit. And in fact, I wanted to join you so that I could give you an account because we were present right there, closer to the front. You see, the problem everybody is talking about is a D chalk, this location. It's still a road. This is an avenue that runs to the center of Islamabad. That's the main road over there. So people, when they come for a protest, come on, next time you're going to say that you should book a space for it. There were thousands of people. I think there were over 100,000 people when they march for a protest. And please keep in mind what the protest was for. Imran Khan had called the protest for the prisoners that are incarcerated in jail. These are political prisoners which have been incarcerated in jail, illegally incarcerated. Secondly, he said, you come for your stolen mandate, which is for democracy. And the third thing was for the rule of law, because we know that there are certain laws enforced in Pakistan, which is for the suppression of the Supreme Court. So these are people had come for their own rights. They were demanding an end to the fascism that we've all been suffering for the past 1.5 years. My brother's in jail, my nephew's in jail. My sister and I were picked up and taken to prison for 3 weeks. So, and there are thousands of other people who've had to face really hard um, uh, it's been very, very tough. Their relatives are picked up. So if people come to protest for their rights, my niece, my sister, and myself were standing right there and very close to where everything was happening. My niece, my sister's granddaughter, who's about 15, 16-year old, she was with us. They were old people, they were women. Nobody goes with their children. Nobody goes to a protest with their children if they think uh, you're entering an area where you are going to create a riot. It was because we went there for our rights. So while we were right there in front where you're talking about the space, they're tall buildings. So about 3:30, a lot of people brought empty shells for us and said, and they pointed out the buildings where the firing was coming from. They said there's sniper rifles on the rooftops. And they said, I was like, it was quite shocking, I can tell you that. Now, these are not people who are protesting or breaking anything. I'm telling you, this is where we were standing. There were people sitting on the roadside. They'd been on the road for over 30 hours. So they were resting on the green belts. They were resting on the service lanes. It's a very widespread area. It's a market. So there were just people sitting on the road or standing like we were. So when you start firing, whether it's one bullet or whether it is two bullets, just explain why would you fire into a crowd when they are only sitting over there. It is a protest. So the crime now is that you cannot protest or ask for your rights. That is the crime that was committed that day. And you start firing into the crowd, and in the documentary I could see they used the word afternoon. By the afternoon, there were already 12 people dead that we are claiming, because they were taken to the hospital. The real operation started late at night. When we left, it was about 10 o'clock at night, 9:30, 10. And by that time, I think about 8:30, it was already pitch dark. So when this military unit moved in, that is when the real massacre occurred. So when you're counting dead bodies, I can tell you, we saw they were firing at people just standing over there. When you start firing from rooftops, you just fire into anybody. Somebody picked up a picture. You haven't seen those pictures where somebody picked up Imran Khan's portrait and he was getting himself up, he was having somebody photograph him and they shot him dead. There are accounts where a person is making his selfie and you could see that he is shot in his shoulder. We saw the wounded. I mean, I'm not talking about rubber bullets. These are like bullet wounds. And that already started at 3:30 in the afternoon. So there's a difference. I will point out in the afternoon, there was sniper rifle, but at night, there was a proper operation. And that's when they used the bigger guns. Like these, you can hear them in the videos. There's so much evidence available of how in the pitch dark you could hear the machine. It's like machine gun fire, whatever they use, whatever automatic weapons they used. The question remains, why were people fired upon? Was it to make them create a atmosphere of fear? Let me point out that these people, when they came out, we were walking down one of the main avenues, which we call Srinagar Highway. We were with them all night. And when, like, we were in a car, but we were moving with the people. There were miles, I'm talking about miles of people walking on foot with the determination, with the jubilation. It was like, I asked some of them, what are you feeling today? They said, we feel we've come out of a very dark time of 1.5 years. And we feel, and they were waving. I can tell you, I have waved. There were policemen standing on roads and waving to us, and we waved back at them. So there was no atmosphere. The military personnel were waving when we saw some of them. So there was it was a deception. I'm telling you, there was no atmosphere where you could feel that you're going into a trap. And I'm telling you, that was a trap. Because otherwise, we would not take our children with us if we thought there was going to be gunfire. Why would we take our children? This was the worst. This was going to be a day Pakistan remembers. We've just come out of Syria situation and we are watching their prisons open up. Is that where if they're mistaken if they think that Pakistan is going to head in that same direction? Pakistanis are not going to let that happen. We cannot deal with this sort of fascism after post that date. Post that date, there are people cannot be located. 200 is a conservative number. There are hundreds more that people are still looking for because there are thousands in prison. When at the moment the relatives are trying to locate their loved ones in prison, so they go from, and the games they are playing, it is terrible because people go to one police station, or they are looking, there are hundreds of police stations that they're trying to locate their loved ones in. So because they can't locate them in prison, so they don't know whether they're dead or alive. This sort of a thing is a shock to Pakistan. Let me tell you, there's the post-mortem report. So they wouldn't let them have post-mortem, right? Then when they got a post-mortem, when they got one of them, a young boy, 17-year-old, they got the post-mortem done. The hospital wouldn't give them the report. And their home was raided. They were threatened. The amount of threats. I mean, you can't imagine how the relatives are being treated. So the relatives are in absolute fear. Where do you take the families of the people who died? Where do you take the families of the ones who are injured? They are being threatened. So some have come forward. If people want to interview them, we've sort of volunteers are saying that we will sort of fudge their faces, like blur their voices and faces and have the interviews. But there is a lawyers team which are working on it. But when we say missing, remember, I'll repeat myself, there are so many volunteer lawyers that are going from one police station to the other, helping the relatives locate them. You cannot identify the dead until you identify where the missing, unless the missing are not located. The relatives will not know whether they are dead or alive. So I understand when the political party is unable to give a confirmed number, because there are no dead bodies. So legally they say that unless we don't have a dead body, how can we say that they are dead? So they could be located on my Pakistani overseas. They understand that they have relatives over here, that it is a very big mistake to have shot at your own people. If for a minute they think that people are now going to sort of retreat with fear into their homes, I think it's a very serious situation in Pakistan right now, because you do not bring your military out to shoot at your people. It was a peaceful protest. I keep saying we would not take a 14-year-old, 15-year-old to a protest. We were right there in the front. If you say, oh, they were about to break into what area? Were they going to break into there's a big distance. People come and protest over outside the White House, don't they? Outside the gate, come and protest in front of the White House. You're talking about at least a kilometer away from any of these buildings. So if you're a kilometer away, you're not even close to the building. So why were you firing at a crowd sitting in the middle of a road? And I'll tell you what happens with young people anywhere in the world. It's a universal factor. You fire tear gas and rubber bullets at them, they turn around and pick up the tear gas shells and throw it back. That becomes a game. Even I was telling them, there's a tear gas shell over there, throw it back. Because you want to save yourself from tear gas. Why not? Why are you throwing tear gas at me in the first place? That, apart from that, a game of tear gas is understood. But when you put people, snipers on top of a building, that's a crime. It is a crime against humanity. It is a crime against peaceful protesters. And it is not just limited to Pakistan. When I mentioned it on Australian TV, and I would like you to hear that. Pakistan is a member of Commonwealth, and it has all the countries led by by United Kingdom. And I did ask the three main factors, like the 3 points of the charter, which brings all these nations together, is rule of law, democracy, human rights. Exactly the 3 points that this protest was for. So when we are demanding or protesting for these 3 points, for human rights, for rule of law, and for democracy, why would we be fired at? Why were we shot at? Why was my granddaughter, my sister's granddaughter, put at that risk? What was that the fault of a 14-year-old? There were so many children there. There were so many older people over there. So Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohit, for having me, and thank you for organizing this. Can you hear me fine? Let me see what I can do. Is this better? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mohit, for having me, and thank you for organizing this. If I can have permission to share my screen, I can go over a bit of what. Okay. So I'll give you some background on what was planned and how it was organized. Islamabad, as you can see on this map, it is this dot. It is on northeast of Pakistan. I'll do some annotations here. So let's see if this works. Okay, anyway. So the plan was, the PTI's plan was from different routes, Peshawar, Quetta, Multan, Lahore, to come to Islamabad and protest here right in front of what is called in Islamabad red zone on T Chowk. So T Chowk is basically a roundabout right in front of the red zone. Red zone houses all the government buildings, the Supreme Court, the Parliament, and like basic government infrastructure. Most Pakistani political parties, when they want to protest in Islamabad, they go to T Chowk. It is a symbolic thing, you know. You're protesting right in front of Supreme Court. You're protesting right in front of the Parliament, telling the government that these are our grievances and these are our legitimate grievances, and they must be listened to. And that has been every party's right. Like before this government, during Imran Khan's government, parties used to come here, they used to protest peacefully, and they would go back. So there was never any issue. But this time, since the government and their military backers, they want to control the narrative, they want to control politics so much, because Pakistan is right now virtually under a military dictatorship. They shut down all the streets. But if you go back here, all the roads leading up to Islamabad, these here, all of these major roads were shut down on 24th of November. And Pakistan's major motorways, this motorway leads from Lahore to Islamabad, this was shut down. Containers were put. Even in Islamabad, if you enter Islamabad here, there were lots of shipping containers that had been piled on top of each other. They were put in place to block the protesters. Can you see my mouse here? Yes. So this is the exact spot where you were pointing out where the man fell down. They had a 3-story container, one container on top of another container on top of another container, 3 shipping containers. That would be at least 36 foot tall. This is where it was. This area, you see, this is the polyclinic hospital. This was the hospital where all the injured were taken and where the first dead bodies were taken, where we got the list from. So this is the scene, the background of the massacre. Yes, this is Jinnah Avenue. This is where all the protesters were gathering. Alima Khan, what she just told, they were around this area, which is far from D Chowk, which would be almost a mile from D Chowk from here. So I am trying to annotate this, but yeah, this is the T Chowk basically. This is the roundabout right in front of red zone, and this is the T Chowk. So this is where everyone was. There was 3-story containers exactly here, and nobody could cross from this to this point. There were rangers deployed on top of these containers, and during the day, We have seen videos of this, and we have video proofs. SSG snipers were offloaded in this area and this area, and they climbed. They went up the roofs of these buildings. In some of these windows, were seen. During the day of 26th November, one Pakistan Army sniper was captured. His equipment was taken away from him. We have seen what equipment he had. He had a sniper gun. I think our next speaker will shed more light on what kind of equipment they had. But these are the buildings on both sides. These are the buildings where snipers were sitting. And then there were police here, and on these side, like on the ground. They were firing tear gas shells from both sides. And then there were rangers deployed also on both sides. The assault rifle fire came from this direction. Now, drop site, like Murtaza and Ryan's story says, a source in Pakistan Army reached out to them and told them how this operation was conducted. In the middle of the night, around 10 p.m. when it started, these positions, they started first firing tear gas shells. Before even that, before the operation started, they shut down all communication in this area. They had mobile jammers, what ISI calls electronic warfare equipment, EW equipment. They had this in the area, so they shut down all mobile communications. You stopped getting signals here. Internet was already shut down. And then they turned off all the street lights here. So this area was completely in the dark. There are offices here in these buildings. Those offices, some of these offices are newspaper offices. They were told to shut down, and journalists were told to leave these offices. So this was all empty at this time. Snipers were deployed in the roofs and on top of the buildings. Around 10 p.m., they started firing here. And when during this commotion, if anyone tried to be a hero or try to be a bit more active, snipers would take them out. They were equipped with night vision capabilities. During this time, there was a drone with night vision capabilities going over this area and surveilling this area. They would see which protesters were most active and they would take them out. That means they would kill them. And the assault rifle firing killed so many people we don't even know about them, or injured a lot of people. But the most important aspect of this plan was that the very next day, and this was ISI's job, the very next day, this whole area was tasked to clean up. They cleaned up, they took their water tankers there, they cleaned up this whole location. But there's a very important clue that if we really notice the next day, there is a video circulating on social media of the very next day. And we can see there are birds, crows, vultures, crows, kites. These are like Pakistani birds that gather around carcasses and dead bodies. They were circling this area because there was so much blood and dead bodies around this area. But subsequently, this whole area was cleaned up. We would not have known about any of this if, for some journalists who worked really diligently in Pakistan, I would commend Matiullah Jan here because he went to this hospital. This is Polyclinic Hospital because it was really easy for protesters to bring the injured here to the nearest hospital. Initially, the hospital shared a list of the injured and the list of the dead, but after journalists started going to these hospitals, the military swooped in. They told the doctors not to share these lists. One journalist who was trying to investigate this, he was abducted. He was charged with terrorism and narcotics cases. Then subsequently, BBC did a story about this. There's a Norwegian newspaper, NEK, they did a story about this. The Guardian did a story about this. All of them are related to how the injured and the dead body, the number of the dead were hidden. The doctors were pressurized to hide the number of the dead bodies. They were not being given post-mortem certificates. So all of this has been very well documented. The only gap we had was how operation was conducted by the Pakistani military, and that gap has been filled by Ryan and Murtaza's reporting with Dropsite News. Yes, I've seen the injured video. I haven't seen the army picking up the bodies, but I have seen the video of the man being injured. Yeah, who's describing the thing. But according to the drop site source, this was a part of the plan. Part of the plan was to kill these people or to shoot at these people to injure as many as you can because the main plan was, and this is the overarching theme of it, to put so much fear in the hearts of the people that they will never dare to do such a thing again, to communicate to the Pakistani public that the Pakistani military and the Pakistani government can be so ruthless that if they ever dare to come here again, they will be treated in the same way and there will be no consequences for the government. And this is what we are fighting against. So cleanup operation the very next day was a part of this plan. And if they ever dare to come here again, they will be treated in the same way and there will be no consequences for the government. And this is what and that is what drop site source has communicated to them. Yeah, exactly. Because PTI has done this before. PTI has protested exactly in this location very peacefully for literally dozens of time, and there was no instructions, there were no indications that they were ever going to be violent about their protests. PTI has never been violent in their protests. So this was definitely a pre-planned operation. The whole purpose of this was to communicate to the Pakistani public that nothing, no dissent will ever be tolerated, that the government is in complete control. This is the message. Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
voice is not upstream.
Okay. Nasir bhai, can you check the volume for the YouTube?
On the YouTube, if you go.
Yeah, if the complaints that there's no volume coming on, no sound coming on.
Yes.
Initially when we started, it should be.
Now. Okay.
Just 1 minute ago, someone tells me
Yes.
from Pakistan.
Even Adil is saying there's no sound.
Okay.
Now it's fine.
Now it's coming.
It's good now.
Okay. Thank you. So we just want to highlight this, that President Trump was also considered as anti-establishment, pro-peace, anti-war, and then the people came out and people selected him and elected him as the president. We want same thing in Pakistan, that the will of the people should be respected, the mandate of the people should be respected, and the government should run by the civilians. We want civilian supremacy in Pakistan with independent judiciary and independent institutions. So now I would like to invite Mr. Sajjad Burki, who is the OIC Secretary of PTI. Thank you, Mr. Sajjad Burki.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Usman. Thank you, Dr. Mohit, for arranging this event today. And also, my thanks to all the organizations that are participating in this press briefing today. I'm, like Dr. Usman said, I represent the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf as the secretary for the overseas chapters. But today, more than that, I stand here as an overseas Pakistani that's hurt, is crying from inside, standing in disbelief that this ever happened in my country. We've all seen protests, we've all seen uprisings, but to shoot down innocent people like that, it's disgraceful, unbelievable, and I hope we will have consequences, severe consequences, for those who brought this upon us. I'm going to say this is, I took some notes and I'd like to read out from some of them. I call it a premeditated murder. That's what it is. This is not something that happened, at the moment. A premeditated murder of numerous people on the night of the 26th in Pakistan, and we call it the Islamabad massacre. I begin today with an unfortunate comparison between Pakistan and the occupied territory of Palestine. I never thought I would ever say that, but I can't help it. What do we have in common? One is occupied by Israel, and the other, meaning Pakistan, is occupied by the military establishment of Pakistan. And of course, it's led by the army dictator Asim Munir, who, with the assistance of his civilian illegal establishment there, ruling the country and having control on the people of Pakistan. Both of these places right now operate similarly with no freedoms. And when I say no freedoms, and you can compare it, no freedom of expression, not in Pakistan, not in Palestine, no freedom of movement. Palestinians cannot go from one place to another freely. Same in Pakistan. You cannot go from one place to another because they'll place containers or they'll arrest you. No freedom of expression. Obviously, they'll kill you. No freedom of movement. No freedom of assembly. As we've seen in Islamabad, similarly, Palestinians cannot assemble in one place to protest. Abductions and kidnappings, That's what they do in Palestine, and unfortunately, that's what they do in Pakistan now. Targeting women and children, yes, in both places, they do that. Destruction of property. We never thought it would come to that. We have always seen Israeli bulldozers go and bulldoze the homes of Palestinians. Well, our army does that in Pakistan too now. They go with a bulldozer and they bulldoze your home. Torture, very obvious. We've seen many cases. Killing of civilians. Both areas do that. And I think actually more frequently in Pakistan now. Coming to November 26, the government invoked Article 245 and gave control to the army. Shoot at sight, if necessary. These were unarmed protesters using their constitutional right to protest peacefully. Why I call it premeditated murder? Because our Interior Minister, Mr. Naqvi, the night before, he threatened, he said, and I'm quoting him, even now, if bullets are fired there for 5 minutes, after that, not a single person will be seen there. This is the Interior Minister of the country threatening you with live bullets. And I think that's a threat to murder. That's what it is. And then using machine guns and advanced weaponry on unarmed protesters, they forgot that the right to assembly and engage in peaceful protest is a universal right, and it is a foundation of human rights, integral to any democracy in the world. Quoting you another person, Hassan Ayub, a journalist known for his affiliation with the establishment, he tweeted after the massacre, more than 100 militant vehicles have been destroyed, 100 heads, mind his language, 100 heads are torn open by the forces. And he says, happy independence. This guy is a spokesman practically for the military establishment, sits on TV every day and talks about them. Although this carnage was witnessed and videotaped by many, the government agencies next morning obviously claimed that no shots were fired and there were no fatalities. Since this was pre-planned, a huge cover-up is in place now. We've seen the BBC, The Guardian, Al Jazeera, and many other international outlets have reported through live witnesses. Patan Coalition 38, that's a network of 250 human rights organizations and civil society organizations, made this statement, and I'm quoting them: the use of brutal force, including lethal force, by the authorities severely breached the right to life and freedom of peaceful assembly and was thus unlawful and unjustified. Unquote. The crime scene was immediately cleaned up, as we've heard from many people. Investigative journalists like Mr. Matiullah Jan were obviously abducted and held. A doctor reporting at The Guardian said, and I'm quoting again, all records of dead and injured have been confiscated by the government and we are not allowed to talk. Senior government officials are visiting the hospital to hide the records. Unquote. The Polyclinic and the PIMS hospital have been ordered to conceal records and not release dead bodies to the families so that the crime can be covered up. Families have been forced to sign affidavits and that the person died in an accident in order to receive their dead. according to our estimations, from what I got from my party, over 2,000 people were arrested in those couple of days in Rawalpindi, almost 1,000 people in Islamabad, 127 in Isa Khel. There were 17 FIRs registered in Islamabad that day, 30 registered in Rawalpindi, 15 in Attak, and 3 FIRs registered but are still sitting sealed because we think they've named Mr. Imran Khan in those FIRs. They're making terrorism cases by arresting people through an identification parade, which is illegal. You know, it is supposed to be done by the judiciary, not by the executive. And now what they do is they bring people in, arrested people, thousands of them, put them through an identification parade and put them on a 14-day remand so that nobody knows where they are and where they are being kept.
Excuse me, all these FIRs have been registered against PTI and Imran Khan, you mentioned?
Yes, these are the ones that were registered in
By the
those, those additional ones. While we do not have exact numbers as we've talked, and questions are being asked about it, obviously, and I hope you understand they are for the reasons that I've given and you've heard. We have confirmed 12 dead that PTI has total confirmation on, over 50 injured, severely injured, that is, and hundreds still missing. That's the key thing. We still don't know how many. When I say hundreds, who knows? Because there are still no records. And if relatives are being coerced not to cooperate, not to give any records. The CCTV footage from the crime scene and the hospitals has not been released. It's being held. That's a giveaway right away. If they wanted to know what happened there, just open up the CCTV footage and we'll all see what happened at the hospital, what happened at the crime scene. I'd like to recognize the names of some of the dead in that shaheed, as we would call them. Mr. Anis Sati, who was not even allowed a post-mortem. The family had to take the body. Mr. Shafiq Lund, he was also one of the people who were dead. Sadar Wali Khan, Muhammad Ilyas, Muhammad Wali, Mr. Tajuddin, they are from Charsadda, Ahmad Wali and Abdul Rashid from Quetta, Abdul Qadir and Mubin Malak from Abbottabad. These are some of the confirmed. Why we are here, my message again would be to take our complaint, our pleadings to the international community, to the international media, to get a response somehow from the White House, from the Department of State, because we as Americans have a right to demand, why are they so quiet on this whole matter? Why don't they speak up? Why don't they condemn the killings that have happened here? We definitely want to demand a resignation of Asim Munir, because he's the main culprit behind this massacre. And we would, here in the US, demand sanctions on Asim Munir and his cohorts in the form of visa restrictions, asset freezes, travel ban, and any entry on them in the US. That's the minimum that should happen. As you know, we've given up, our chairman has actually, Imran Khan has given a couple of demands till the 14th, and they are simple demands that release the prisoners, political prisoners that you're holding, and form a judicial commission to investigate May 9 and November 26, And if they don't do that, we will move into a civil disobedience movement. And not only the civil disobedience movement, we are also be asking the overseas Pakistanis all over the world to help out in holding their disbursements that they make to Pakistan, not fully, but at least a portion of it, because we don't want to finance this illegal entity in Pakistan. We must realize that in order to get couple of $1 billion or $3 billion or $7 whatever over the years, the same people come on hands and knees and grovel in front of the IMF so that they can get a couple of $1 billion. And here we are, overseas Pakistanis, who send over $32 billion a year to that country. And how do they treat us? They refuse to give us the right to vote. They constantly threaten us that they will cancel our passports and our IDs. They are threatening our families in Pakistan, not just threatening, abducting them and kidnapping them and harassing them, because we in overseas countries are raising our voices. So this is our right. If we want to hold our contributions to Pakistan, that's our right. We will not fund this illegal entity that's running Pakistan right now. It's an oppressed state, and we will be no part of that in financing that. Before I leave, I want to just a comment. I know there's been a lot of questions asked in the last few days about who was there, who was not there, why did we go to D-Chalk, why did we not go there. Let me request everybody, say, where in our constitution or where in our bylaws does it say that the people of Pakistan cannot go to D-Chalk? Isn't that a part of Pakistan? Don't we have a right to go to that place and protest? Why should we not be able to go there? So please, anybody, stop asking that question, why we didn't stop earlier, why we didn't go to Sanjani or other places. We have a right to be at D-Chalk. And that's what we were using, our right to be there. A lot of our leadership was there. They did participate. Not everybody can be there all the time. And that's how parties operate. So, our questions should be directed towards the killers, the murderers, the people who carried out this operation. And they are the ones who should be made to answer what they've done to the people of Pakistan. So my prayers for everybody who was involved. We have a GoFundMe account set up already for the victims, for their families, and we would like, this is a non-for-profit account, and please, whoever can, donate to that account so that we can help the families of the victims in Pakistan. Thank you so much. Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you, Barkisam. I would quickly request Colonel Akbar, can you actually give us an explanation of the kind of the weapons that have been used? Thank you. You must have heard the press conference in which Umar Ayub first mentioned the nature of the military weapons that have been used. So Colonel Akbar is going to give the details of the weapons.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohit. Thank you very much. And at this point, I also thank First Pakistan Global as well as the Alliance for Democracy and Human Rights Abuses which have come up in Pakistan, which have given this platform to speak out as a veteran. What Dr. Mohit said, as far as the weapons which were involved, that's a very small segment of it. And at this point, let me quickly, I'll take about 5 to 7 minutes. What I'm going to speak about is the backdrop of how Pakistan military lifeline is coming from the West, which is being used against its own people. That's the backdrop, which is very important to understand. Then, as the topic is Islamabad massacre, me being part of Pakistan military from childbirth to like 50 years, I feel ashamed. As a professional soldier, I bow my head. What has come about is that we have crossed a certain threshold. A regular army has turned into a completely rudderless, with having no checks and balances. It is becoming a con army. So that is, I would talk about the planning and the conduct of this operation, which took place as Islamabad massacre. There is a lot which has already been talked about, and the film that you saw, Alima Khan Saiba, she also, as a ground witness, spoke to you about it. But there are some blanks right there, so I will try to fill that. The few ramifications and how they hurt the interests of the humanity, how they hurt the interest of United States of America, how do they hurt the interest of the free world. That is very important. And after those ramifications, at the end, there are very tangible steps which are required to be taken right now by the powers to be, the stakeholders in this very, very dark unfolding in the part of the world where is over 250 million people are involved. So this is, I'll just close it on that. Now, US-Pakistan military cooperation has been there since its independence, but fast forward, moving to the war on terror, there is billions of dollars which have gone into Pakistan military's aid in terms of finances, then weapons. And then the worst is that how it has been channelized and where they ended up. The Coalition Support Fund was also having a segment of Pakistan's counter-insurgency fund, which was given to the military to suppress its own people, starting 2009. These are very, very important things to know. Though they have stopped now, they become conditional, but the lifeline of this where Pakistan military is sustaining itself goes from here, from Washington DC. So I would take this opportunity also to request the head figures here, Secretary Defense General Lloyd Austin, Secretary State Anthony Blinken, and of course the White House, our president, my president, your president, Mr. Joe Biden. In this backdrop, now this operation was not just one day before 25th of November that Asim Munir, who's an illegitimate and illegal Chief of Army Staff in Pakistan, because he got this appointment through a lot of maneuvering after his retirement. That is a very, very, serious point. This whole operation was planned over weeks. As soon as, I should say in August, where there was a call to come to Islamabad, this thing started happening. Then it was delayed 8th of September, and then when the final call was given, the plans were already in place. Now, these plans were made at GHQ. The field formation, which was given this responsibility, is 10 Corps based out of Chiklala. The headquarters is there. And on ground, Rawalpindi, Islamabad, the segment there, the 111 Brigade, was to command this whole thing. And this is a set pattern. Anything happening over law and order, political, action, protest, 111 Brigades gets mobilized. In this planning, especially for Islamabad massacre, the level was raised. Directly the Corps Commander, Lieutenant General Shahid Imtiaz, he was in situ. The Brigade Commander, Brigadier Dogar, he was fully involved in this. and the articulation of command ran through the Chief of Army Secretariat. I mean, it is so gross that it is unimaginable. 111 Brigade has 6 battalions which were augmented by more battalions coming from 17 Dev, part of 10 Corps. That is the reserve division for the entire corps, and it was taken out. Imagine how it was done. Before this 26th November, the forces were already moved into Islamabad. There are again proofs, video, and at the same time you have witnesses. The forces were moved in the garb of law enforcement. You could see vehicle after standing on main roads camouflaged. So this was, as you guys highlighted, that it was a very premeditated. It was not something that, there is a political situation, the government is handling it, and it is getting out of hand, and then, the government is handing it over to the military. No. This government actually is handled by the military. Asim Munir handles this government. So, I've told you a broad, orbit where 10 Corps. Now, let me tell you one more thing, where the question was asked, why there are only 12, records that you have of dead people? My dear sir, there again, the smoking gun is in hundreds of people who are missing. Now, this operation was deliberated upon and followed through to the end. In this, all segments, all elements of 10 Corps were, brought in this plan. The Corps engineers, commanded by the brigadier, they were tasked to create obstacles. It was a military operation, you see. The Corps signals, augmented by the electronic warfare detachments from ISI and all, what Vikas was talking about, they were given. Then you come on the, so this whole thing was not done as just law and order situation. And I can go on and go on. The last briefing which took place in Chaklala about a week before 26th November, the General Asim Munir was asked, what are we going to do about the dead bodies? Do you know what his reply was? From my side, just throw them to the dogs. This is what it is. So the entire chain of command was involved in this. The military operations, the military intelligence side. Now, on the conduct side, once they brought in all these elements and what you just saw on the video and what was explained to you, it was done phase-wise. This mobilization on the part or the protest or the final call on the part of the people would have taken long. They were not doing it as an organized military operation. If they were called to D-Chowk, it would have taken some time, but it was countered in a very military sense. When the people started coming, they were expecting, like, let's say 500,000 people or 1 million people coming to Islamabad D-Chowk, which was shown to you on the map also, how and from where. They sucked in the head. When a mobilization of 500,000 or 1 million people takes place, it takes days and weeks. So the head was brought in and it was crushed. And it was crushed in a classical military operation where you counterattack a bridgehead. So this, and then now I'll briefly touch upon you heard the firing shots, right? These firing shots are not from the weapons which are used by law enforcement to quell a protest or law and order. These were automatic weapons of military caliber. The people, and you saw it, good that you saw that video. These people were moved from Tarbela. The special forces were moved from SSG. 2 commando battalion. And also, maybe Zarar elements were also involved in this. These people were having those specialized equipment or weaponry, which I talked earlier. You know, your Remington 700 model sniper guns. Even the ammunition goes from United States. So, where in United States there are certain regulatory norms, ITAR covers all weapons going into any other army, from aircraft F-16 to these specialized weapons. The governments sign off how they are going to be used. There is an end user certificate which is signed. So in a way, US taxpayers' money was used, billions of dollars, to weaponize Pakistan Army. And now at grassroots you saw where it was used and how it was used. Now this is something which I'm highlighting because as a veteran and also, you know, as a professional soldier, we have a spectrum of duties. We have conducted peacekeeping duties all over the world. It is not that there are no education about it, that what you can do and what you cannot do. It is not done in ignorance. They cannot even say that their safety lies, oh, they did not know. There are training facilities in Pakistan Army's own establishments which teach peacekeeping internationally. So, on the conduct side, on the orbit side, you saw, so this was a little fill in the blank that I wanted to do quickly on the ramifications. Now, the first thing is that as West, Miss Jane Marriott, you know, Donald Bloom, sitting in Islamabad. I mean, I can talk about the ODRP and the CIA station chief also, you know. But this whole feed which is coming on has been militarized. You cannot deal as a democracy, the West side I'm talking about. The lead is with Britain and United States. The militaries are engaged over there. There are agreements, you know, open-ended and open-ended agreements between the state of Pakistan and United States right now. For God's sake, do not use it to kill humanity. Do not do that. At the end of the day, it would not serve United States. It would not. So that is one thing. This military is going to get more and more towards totalitarianism, and it would become a dictatorship, aka like North Korea. You don't want that. They have ballistic missiles. There would be a lot of insecurity and instability. Now, my recommendation side is that this lifeline to Pakistan military has to be shut off immediately. The military side of it. And it is a demand that the leadership should be put under sanctions, including Asim Munir and other generals who are directly involved with this. Even in an operation like this, they should be sanctioned, they should be put on visa restrictions, their assets should be freezed. So these were one of those things. I could have been a little more deliberate, but the host is telling me about the timing. So these were a few blanks that I wanted to cover. And I am, as a member of various veteran bodies in Pakistan, the Veterans of Pakistan, the Pakistan Ex-Servicemen Society, the Pakistani Veterans Association of North America, and also with some international collaboration with the Veterans for Peace, which is US based and international. So there is a lot of, this segment of international society and Pakistani society, which is very perturbed. And we request the authorities, which I said, the buck stops with Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. It stops with Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and of course the White House. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Akbar. I must say that this was perhaps one of the most important professional presentation if you look and absorb the impact of this thing, Pakistan Army has gone to a point where it doesn't even look like an army. It has used the center of Islamabad, the Pakistani people, as an enemy, using the signal corps for blockade, the commandos as mercenaries. It has used drones. It has used corps of engineers to take off the dead bodies. They have done a classical military operation against the people of Pakistan. Is this what I have understood? They have done a classical military operation in the center of Islamabad against the people of Pakistan, treating them as a bridgehead of an invading army. Just like in the D-Day, the North American, you see the Allied forces landed on the fields of Normandy. That was a bridgehead. If the Germans would have destroyed the bridgehead, they would have destroyed the invading Allied army. So they have treated the Pakistani people's pro-democracy protester election as an invading army, if they have attacked them as an invading army. 100%. The second important point is that every weapon that has been given to them has an end user agreement. In 2019, when the Pakistan Air Force apparently used F-16 to shoot down the Indian MiG, the Indians were basically raising this issue. These F-16s had the end user agreement. They could not have been used against India, right? Which end user agreement of a British or American weapon would ever allow Pakistan to use those weapons and the sniper weapons to be used against the unarmed pro-democracy protesters in Pakistan? So when you have the questions, there are two more presentations, one on international law and where do we see the massacre from Barrister Ehtasham, who is here. I would like, if anyone, whether you're a journalist or otherwise, to raise these questions, relevant questions to the people regarding this, the end user agreement. This, I think, is the very, very, very important and significant point, that what is the American ambassador and the British High Commissioner and the Europeans sitting and doing in Islamabad, and what kind of presentations Pakistan Foreign Minister giving them. They have done a crime against humanity in the center of Islamabad. I will request Barrister Ehtasham to give his legal perspective. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, honorable ladies and gentlemen. I'm thankful to the organizers for raising voice against injustice, and thank you for being here. Now that you've heard about the eyewitness account from different sources today here in this press conference, I'm going to talk about the legal perspective, not just from an international law point of view, but also the Pakistani law point of view, because although we do understand that right now there is law of the jungle in the country, we do understand that there is no rule of law in Pakistan, but we need to remind ourselves that there is a constitution that exists in the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. There is something called Pakistan Penal Code, or the Code for Criminal Procedure, that exists in Pakistan. So I'll quickly refer to that, and later on I'll talk about the international law. First of all, everybody understands that a constitution is primarily, fundamentally, a social contract between the citizens of a country, of a state, and the government, the state itself. So there are certain fundamental rights guaranteed in the constitution. For example, the right to protest, the right of assembly, the right of association. If somebody wants to associate himself or herself with Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, they have the right to do that. They have the right to protest in front of the Parliament House. I mean, I remember when the Interior Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Mohsin Naqvi, passed this statement that why do the protesters have to come to D Chowk? They can protest outside their own houses. I said that why not protest in their bathrooms? I mean, if the citizens of a country have to protest against the government, they have to protest in front of the Parliament House or the important places where they're noticed, of course. So forget about these rights that we're talking about. Right now, the topic under discussion is about the very right to life. Now, the courts of Pakistan, the superior courts of Pakistan, have several times interpreted Article 9 of the Constitution that talks about right to life as it is not just a mere biological right of existence. It means that the state is supposed to provide a certain quality lifestyle to the people of the country. For example, right to sanitation, education, health, freedom of speech. But we're not talking about that. We're just talking about the right to mere biological existence right now. What happened on the 26th of November 2024 in Islamabad, the atrocious acts of violence committed by the state of Pakistan, by the government by the law enforcement agencies of Pakistan. I can tell you that as a lawyer who's practiced law for 17 years in Pakistan, I've appeared before courts several times arguing a petition for the registration of an FIR. If some incident has occurred and the police is not registering the FIR, like in the present case, the 12 martyrs of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, their families complaining that their applications are not being entertained by the police for the registration of FIR. So whenever this kind of a situation takes place, we submit a petition in the court under section 22A, 22B of Criminal Procedure Code, and we and the test to allow that petition for the court is that I need your attention on this, that just if the contents of the application disclose the commission of a cognizable offense, FIR ought to be registered. That's it. So even if the contents are not truthful, because that is for the investigating officer to decide later on that the contents were truthful or they were false allegations. So only if the contents disclose the commission of a cognizable offense, the FIR ought to be registered, and these are several judgments of the Supreme Court. So therefore, the martyrs of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf who've lost their lives, their families are entitled to submit applications for the registration of FIRs, number one. And number two, they're entitled to nominate anybody whosoever in those applications. So this right is not being allowed to them. And of course, if 12 citizens who were exercising their constitutional right to protest were killed through sniper shots, it calls for an FIR under section 302, murder of Pakistan Penal Code. And those who were injured, it calls for an FIR under section 324 of Pakistan Penal Code. Now, you must have heard the eyewitness account that talked about the manipulation of the post-mortem reports and the manipulation of the medical legal reports of the injured. This constitutes another offense. I mean, the first offense is not registering the FIRs, and the second offense is tampering with the evidence. Now, this is a very serious offense. This amounts to obstruction of justice. If you are tampering with the post-mortem report, or if you are tampering with the medical legal report, it calls for the registration of a case under Police Order 2002. But as we all know, right now maybe it is, all these laws are irrelevant in Pakistan, but the point remains, and I insist that we need to keep talking about them, because this is what we are asking for the implementation of. So now coming to the international law point of view quickly, because I know there's paucity of time. I've heard people talking about the International Court of Justice. So I just want to make it very clear right now that International Court of Justice basically fundamentally only deals between the deals with the disputes between states, right? It does not, it cannot prosecute an individual or other entities. So therefore, that is not the forum. The forum is United Nations Security Council. This issue needs to be raised in the United Nations Security Council, which is responsible. I'll just talk about it. Which is responsible for maintenance of international peace and security, number one. And it is the prerogative and the authority of the United Nations to pronounce decisions including peacekeeping It can take measures regarding peace enforcement missions, and it can also take measures regarding non-military pressure that also includes trade embargoes. Now, the question is that who'll raise it, as pointed out by Dr. Moeed Pirzada. Now, unfortunately, international law is also influenced by international politics. We know that there are 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, namely United States, UK, China, Russia, France, and there are other 15 members who are elected for 2 years. Every 2 years they changed. I can tell you the names, but since there's lack of time, I'll not go into that detail. So I'll just now come to the point that what could be a relevant forum at the international level. There is something called International Criminal Court that was established through the Statute of Rome back in 1998. And it was entered into force on the 1st of July 2002. And as of October 2024, there are 125 state parties to the statute. Now, fundamentally, the International Criminal Court deals with 4 different international core crimes. The first is genocide, the second is crimes against humanity, the third is the war crimes, and the fourth is the crime of aggression. What has happened on the 26th of November 2024 in Islamabad are crimes against humanity. And you will find this in different resolutions passed by the International Criminal Court, or the judgments also, that under the Rome Statute, the International Criminal Court can also prosecute and investigate where the states are unable and unwilling to do so themselves. So we often talk about the Geneva Convention. It talks about the armed conflicts. It relates more to the wars. But when it comes to a situation, a non-combat situation, where a state or a government has opened fire on its own citizens, committed mass killings, it is the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court.
Yes.
And they can take the action. Now, the problem is that Pakistan yet is not one of the members of the Statute of Rome, and there's a certain reason for that. India is not a member, China is not a member. United States has recently asked for cancelling the membership. Israel already has since 2002, Sudan has, and there's another country that has. So, the jurisdiction, as far as the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court is concerned, it says, the law says that either if the crime is committed in the territory of the state party, number 2, the crime is committed by a national of the state party. In our case, this is not possible. Pakistan is not a state party, and the crime is not committed against the national of a state party. So the only option left, and the only exception, is where the United Nations Security Council would send a reference, and the last time the reference was sent by the United Nations Security Council was back in March 2005.
Can Amnesty International raise it in the UN?
I mean, Amnesty International can, of course, raise it. It can raise voice for it, but only member states, countries have the power to vote upon it. So if you build the pressure through Amnesty International, if you build the pressure through the White House, through the Congress, like Sajjad Barki Saab has been talking about, Dr. Moeed has been talking about, like Colonel Akbar has talked about, his president, Joe Biden. So if you build that pressure, it might lead to that. So, so last time it was against Sudan in March 2005, and then against Libya in February 2011. And another option, if United Nations Security Council takes it seriously, for example, I remember back in 1993, there was an International Criminal Tribunal that was established by UNSC for Yugoslavia to investigate and prosecute for crimes against humanity, and in 94 for Rwanda. And there were 61 people who were convicted in that. So I think the best shot that we have is to create that pressure from within the United States and to influence in whatever capacity that we can, as an organization, as an individual, as an influencer, whatsoever, to raise voice so that the issue is taken up by the United Nations Security Council. And if UNSC sends a referral to the International Criminal Court, let me tell you, now this is very important. International Criminal Court can prosecute individuals for crimes against humanity, number one, and this prosecution is not subject to any statute of limitation. Which means that if today somebody is in power, he is holding a post and he's untouchable, he's a sacred cow, and let's say 10 years down the line, he's not there, but he's still alive, he can still be prosecuted.
Yep.
The only exception is that nobody under 18 years of age can be prosecuted, and they've specifically mentioned there that except for someone who hasn't attained the age of majority, which is 18, everybody else can be prosecuted, including a head of the state. So I think this is a sword that would stay there for the people who've committed the atrocious acts of violence on 26 November 2024. I do understand that I might be sounding very theoretical to some people, very idealistic, but I think Sajjad Barki Saab would understand it better than most of the individuals here, because his leader quite often talks about idealism. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This actually, thank you so much, Barrister Ehtesham, for giving the domestic, legal, and the international law perspective, which also raises the complexity of the whole thing. But I think the international organizations like Amnesty International and the Human Rights Watch, if we can actually lobby them and we can persuade them, they can be a starting point in moving in a productive direction. With this, I will call and request the last speaker, Dr. Munir, to give the perspective. He's in Florida somewhere, to give us the perspective of the Pakistani American physicians and the Pakistani American diaspora on the issue. Can we connect Dr. Munir? I had sent him a message as well. Yes. Dr. Munir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine with my.
Yeah, can you speak a bit louder? Can we raise his volume?
Let me try.
Barrister Ehtesham, that has been given to down in Indian MiG what weapons have been used in the states. So this is the first thing I want to within the United States. To focus on the
First of all, that it's what I was supposed to talk about, but when I was listening to all these speeches, I just decided to change what I was going to speak about, and I just wrote down a few lines. I'll be very. So I will start first by reading a quote from an article stated, "In time, efforts to erase his legacy are free." This is the last paragraph of an excellent article which was written in 2006 after Nawab Akbar Bukti was killed by forces of General Musharraf. And instead of expressing grief, Musharraf celebrated by congratulating his forces for a job well done. And just like his predecessors and those who followed him, the men in uniform had delivered another body blow to the country of Pakistan. Sad thing is that the same statement, even after 20 years, applied to the current state of Pakistan. And now the statement reads as follows. In time, efforts to erase Imran Khan's legacy are bound to backfire. General Asim for now may have charge of Pakistan, but the events of last 2 years have given birth to a new era of politics of defiance in the unlucky South Asian country. As they say, denial, the word denial is the final stage of genocide. There is a book written by John Cox of the same name. However, the fact is that denial is part of every stage of genocide. The first stage of genocide is politicide, and that we are witnessing in current day Pakistan. Genocide is not a destination, but a process which evolves over time and is facilitated by multiple forces, which, due to ignorance, political expediency, or short sighted objectives, allow the perpetrators to get away with various crimes. With these fascist regimes get emboldened and commit even more atrocities. And that's what we are witnessing in Pakistan, a process of escalating violence against the citizens and the institutions of state and every pillar of democracy. Pakistan has already met all the criteria of politicide as the so-called champions of human rights and democracy look the other way. And now the fascist illegal regime is transforming from politicide to genocide. And the massacre of Islamabad is the most recent and very painful reminder of this transformation. Anyone with a little bit of honesty will agree that Pakistan has an illegal regime forced upon the nation through brute force and a stolen election, which was basically a highway robbery named as an election. The regime is led by proven criminals and bullies, and because the world decided to look the other way, when journalists were being hounded out of Pakistan, it led to murder of Arshad Sharif. And because the regime got away with that murder, it emboldened them to shoot Imran Khan. And luckily, he survived. And because nothing was done about that shooting, it emboldened them to steal the elections and install an illegal fascist regime. And because nobody did anything about it, they escalated it further, and the judges of Supreme Court were hounded, tortured, and coerced. And because nobody listened to the judges, it led to the destruction of the constitution and due process in the country, culminating in the illegal 26th Amendment, which was forced upon the country by the illegal parliament using every illegal method known to mankind, including kidnapping, torturing of parliamentarians and their family members, including children as young as 2 years old. And as the world looked the other way, it finally led to the massacre of November 26th in Islamabad. And now the world has a choice: keep looking the other way, and then this illegal fascist regime will keep escalating, and most likely the politicide will complete its transformation into a full-blown genocide. And that's why we are here to raise our voice and somehow stop this madness. Therefore, yesterday when I was listening to the statement of Matthew Miller, the spokesperson for White House, that they will apply sanctions, visa restrictions against officials involved in corruption, coercion, and human rights violations, I did not know whether to laugh or cry. Maybe if they had honestly done their job over the last couple of years, upheld the Constitution of the United States that they took oath to defend, including the Bill of Rights, then maybe, and maybe those innocents who were shot, injured, and killed in Islamabad would still be alive. Everyone should remember that the Pakistani nation has rejected the criminals disguised as politicians and their facilitators to rule them anymore. If you have one word from this press conference that you need to take home, it's denial. Remember, denial is the favorite weapon of the fascist regimes throughout history. You are the press, you are the eyes and the ears of the civilized world. Will you stand up to these fascist regimes and tell the story of those voices which are being smothered? The fascists will always try to hide their crimes, like it's been done in Pakistan, by use of fear, brute force, torture against those injured or killed. But like always, these criminals forget one thing: every life has a story, and those stories will be told, and those stories will keep hounding these tyrants till eternity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So before we take some questions from you guys, I have a resolution which is adopted by all Pakistani American diaspora organizations. I'll just go through quickly, which states that the Islamabad massacre and the other incident of state-sponsored violence represent grave violation of human rights, including the brutal killing of peaceful activists on November 26, 2024. Systematic suppression of democracy, judicial subversion, media censorship, and the undermining of constitutional rights have plunged Pakistan into a crisis. There is an urgent need for civilian supremacy, rule of law, and the restoration of democratic demands and principles in Pakistan. So the first thing, overseas diaspora is asking for fair and free elections, immediate organization of free, fair, and transparent elections under the supervision of international neutral observers, neutral watchdogs, investigation of election fraud and irregularities, including those on May 9th, November 26th, and the February 8th elections to ensure accountability for those who are responsible. Accountability and justice. So establishment of an independent international commission to investigate the Islamabad massacre and similar atrocities. The disappearances of missing persons, ensuring proof of life and reunification with the families. I think this is the most important point, and we all have to raise this to all the international media and human rights organizations that we need proof of life for the people who are missing. Every moment their families, they're separated from their loved ones. This is crime against humanity. So please focus on this point. Violation of constitutional principles under Article 6, prosecuting those involved in undermining democracy and rule of law. Filing of cases in international human rights courts against military officials and all the government officials, including high-rank military officials and the Chief of Army Staff, Asim Munir. Civilian supremacy and rule of law, end to military interference in governance, restoring civilian authority in accordance with the constitutional principles. Prosecution of those involved in orchestrating massacre, abductions, and political engineering. Protection of fundamental human rights, freedoms, including judicial independence, free speech, and the right to assembly. Economic boycott and sanctions. So what you guys can do, all other things, they are in the hand of other international organizations. Being Pakistani, being the brothers and sisters of people who are martyred, who are being treated as slaves, what you can do personally, how you can play your role if you are living in Pakistan, that boycott all the businesses owned by the Askari groups, military controlled enterprises, until justice is served. So it's all about justice for the oppressed ones. Suspension of remittances and foreign investments to Pakistan as peaceful way of protest, excluding direct family support. Call on foreign governments to impose Magnitsky sanctions on individuals responsible for human rights abuses and massacre. So Magnitsky law that constitutes travel ban, visa restrictions, asset ban and freezes on all those criminals who are involved in all these kind of atrocities. And you can write to your congressmen and senators, and they can raise this issue with State Department. And if you were able to apply Magnitsky sanctions, that will make sure from future they do not take any kind of these fascist actions. Also, there is a Leahy law which can control the military corporation. As Colonel Akbar has mentioned, that there is a end user agreement that what kind of weapons they can use against their own people or the innocent civilians. That should not be used. So Leahy law can control any kind of military cooperation with the security agencies. Another thing you guys can do, social and diplomatic efforts. Initiate a global awareness campaign to expose atrocities and advocate for justice. Do their social boycott. If you are going to their weddings, if you are going to their funerals, if you are spending time with them, stop right away, because you want justice for all those martyrs. This is the least we can do. We can stop our friendships. How we can do all these kind of socialization at the expense of our martyrs? So this is the least you guys can do to start social boycotting all your family interactions with those people. Engage with international institutions, including the United States and US Congress, to demand accountability and safeguard democracy. Organize peaceful protest worldwide to amplify the plight of victims and pressure the regime for change. And the last but not the least, the media responsibility. This is very important point, that expose and hold accountable media outlets complicit in spreading propaganda or silencing dissent. Advocate for press freedom and protect journalists reporting on human rights abuses. Support whistleblowers exposing state-sponsored atrocities. In the end, we just want to make sure, if you are overseas, you living anywhere, transnational repression, if you guys are facing any kind of threat, intimidation, harassment from the Pakistani agencies, we are in contact with intelligence agency here, we are in contact with FBI. You guys can reach out to us and there will be consequences at a very higher level. So we do not want anybody to suffer from transnational repression where their families and dear ones, they get harassed back home because of their political rights. The last thing, I just want to make sure that reforms for all the institutions, police, judiciary, election commission, because that's the foundation of a true democratic society. And all this fight is about freedom, democracy, rule of law, and civil supremacy. And we want all our Pakistani 250 million people to stand for their rights and do not obey illegal orders where they can oppress their own people. So I'll stop here and then I will ask Dr. Mueed to take some questions from the media and we can answer those concerns. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Usman. Not only from the media, anyone who wants to raise a question to the points that have been raised, I think some of very good suggestions, I think from the international law perspective, also, the Colonel Akbar's presentation. So any kind of point, introduce yourself and then raise the question. Giri, go ahead.
I know this was not raised here, but it's something that people in Pakistan have been talking about. This was mentioned in some media reports in Pakistan that you had a meeting with Donald Trump after the elections and that he promised to look into Imran Khan's case. Would you like to say something about it?
I know there was this issue brought up by one of the journalists, and I've addressed it in the last couple of days. To be honest with you, I really don't want to discuss this subject publicly. Couple of reasons. Not that I want to say yes or deny whether we have met them or not. We are in touch with the highest members of the Republican Party. We are talking to them, but we talk to them about American policy on Pakistan. This is not person specific And I promise you that it is not about bringing Imran Khan back to power. It's about rule of law in Pakistan. It's about democracy in Pakistan. It's about the killings in Pakistan. Those are the things we want to bring to their attention. The subject of whether Imran Khan will be released or will be back in power, we believe is the responsibility of the people of Pakistan. And they are the ones who should be addressing it, not the American administration. And I hate to, maybe disappoint you by not giving you a direct answer, but I'm under an obligation not to, release some of the issues that we are discussing right now. We,
Sir, thank you so much. But I thought we were basically discussing Islamabad massacre, not onto the politics of PTI versus Republican Party. But we're here to basically discuss this thing. Otherwise, we'll go very far off. So I think you've asked the question. He's also responded to this. Thank you so much. Right. So I think we are here to basically discuss on 26 November 2024 in the center of Islamabad, there has been a massacre against the unarmed civilians of Pakistan by an institution that we used to consider Pakistan Army. And that is what the crisis moment is, and I think we need to be focusing on this.
Okay.
And say about it.
Barki Sahab, I also have a question from you. Basically, my name is Ahmed Noorani. So basically, Barrister Ihtisham has mentioned in his presentation that the families of the people who are killed are trying to get their FIRs registered and they are facing problems. I don't have this information. I was trying to follow with different people who are involved, and I was told that none of them, at least the people whom I contacted, were interested. Number one. And number two, I was told by the journalists who were working and who met the families that there is no motivation or there is no support from the party on this count. And that is the biggest reason. Because obviously when a person is killed and they are already very much horrified, how would they dare to go to the police station and request for the registration of an FIR? Today, Barrister Gohar, who is the chairman of the party, has stated on record that he has or his party has nothing to do with this issue. And this is his exact quote. And this is up to the family. So this is my question. What is this all going on?
Yeah, I'm not an attorney. I can only relate what I hear from back home. I think Barrister Ihtisham would probably be more educated and more the right person to answer.
My question is not legal. I'm asking the political question. Why the political party is not supporting?
Yeah, that's what I want to. If I'm not wrong, I don't think the political party has the jurisdiction to go and file an FIR. An FIR has to be filed by the person who has been affected. And
but sir, this is precisely what Noorani is saying.
Yeah.
That the people, the murder has been done by state agencies.
Yes.
People are horrified. They're terrified, right?
Yes.
Unless the political party supports them, gives them the lawyers or the financial help,
Yes.
it is not possible for them to walk into a police station and register a case saying that, the army, Jawans and paramilitaries have killed our people.
Dr. Saab, I promise you, there's a whole team of lawyers that are working on this issue, that are available to these people, who are willing to work with them. The stress is on the families. They are the ones who unfortunately have been scared into not filing those FIRs. The help is there. Anybody, if you know of a family who wants to file an FIR, I'll connect them to an attorney, a PTI attorney, who will go with them and do it. So I promise you, it's not that the party doesn't want to or is not helping or is not diligent. Unfortunately, the people are so scared that they don't step up and they don't want to, expose themselves.
Mohit bhai, I will kind of add a couple of lines here. I've been in touch with certain officials in KPK government, because most of unfortunately those who were killed belong to KPK, and we raised this issue with them on behalf of our group. and they said that they are obviously going to file FIRs. Right now, everybody in Pakistan and all of us who are here were going through the shock and trauma of what happened. I mean, we could not even comprehend that this was possible in our own country. So everybody was in the shock state. The families are in the grieving stage right now. And now the next stage will be where the legal consequences and actions will be taking place. But as Sajjad Bhai mentioned, the legal teams are working and they are coordinating with the families and those who have been martyred. Their families have been in contact with the attorneys now, and with the official channels are activated, and soon those FIRs will be filed um, uh, in different places. That's all I can say. So that is being actively done right now. I spoke to them myself this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Muni. Yeah.
Can I just add just one little comment, and maybe Barrister Sham can expand on it. I was also told, again, this is information that was provided to me, that technically on one incident there can only be one FIR. What usually the government or the agencies do is that they go and file an FIR by themselves on their own premise, on their own information. And that stops the other party from filing another FIR.
Barrister-
I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
Barrister Sham, kindly clarify.
First, I remember that guy when the Rangers incident took place. You remember one of the victims who died was an ex-officer of Frontier Constabulary, and his brother said that I went to the police station, I tried to get the FIR registered, but they said that we want you to change the contents of the application. So I said that my brother is gone, why would I say lies about his death?
I remember very well.
Right? So that is one incident. And second, as far as the legal perspective is concerned, whenever a crime takes place, it is committed against the state, not just one particular victim. So it is the responsibility of the state or the government or the police to register the FIR first. And then what Mr. Berkey has said is absolutely correct, because most of the times what these law enforcement agencies do, they register an FIR by themselves, putting up their own version, and then they said that the FIR is registered. We can't register a second FIR. So in these cases, what Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf lawyers can do is that they can go to the courts, file petitions for the registration of counter version from the families of the victims. And
If we know the first FIR has been registered, no FIR has been registered.
I think they must have registered the FIR. What they do in such situations is, mostly you must have heard as a journalist, Noorani Saab, that they register the FIRs and then they seal them. And they say very shamelessly and openly, oh, we've sealed the FIR, we can't give you a copy.
Yeah, but Sethia, in
Yes.
this case, I think that even if you are asking the lawyers to go to the court to file a petition, before that they will have to file an application
Yes.
for the counter FIR.
Yes, of course, from the families. That I agree with you. That's right. And the party needs to support them.
If I may add
Yeah.
something over
I
here.
also have a question on that. Yes, go
Sure.
ahead.
Myself and Dr. Moeed, we have one FIR against, we have been put in that FIR together. Now, who filed that FIR?
Someone.
No, I mean, this thing is going in circles that it has to be somebody's relative, it has to be something this and this. No. Anybody who sees a crime happening and
Right.
he is on top a witness and he has whatever proof, he can go and file an FIR. It is just like a police report here. Something happens, I call 911 and police comes. Actually, here it is very easy. But the FIR in which you and me are together,
Right.
that was filed by Mr. ABC, who has a name, who has an address, because without a name and address, and he has a cell phone number, and he has a waldiyat. So as long as he has this kind of a thing, the
Right.
FIR is in place.
Yes, and one last comment that I think, as per the letter and spirit of criminal law, the question should be that why the government has not registered the FIRs for the victims as per the statements of their families, number one. And if they have registered the FIR as per their own version, why have they still not contacted the families of the victims for their version and for their statement under Section 161 of the Code of Criminal Procedure? That should be the question.
No, but that is what is being asked. There's two aspects to it. One is
Right,
registering it, the other is filing it.
Right.
So somebody has to file it, and then the government's responsibility, as
Right.
Barrister Saab is saying, is to accept it.
Right.
So in this case, let's say citizen X, his candidate, his constituency guy, he can go and file it.
Right. Barrister Ehtisham, it's very interesting that Colonel Akbar mentioned that FIR that was registered against us. For those people who don't know, I had never met Colonel Akbar since the FIR was registered. In one of these occasions organized by First Pakistan Global, I got to see who Colonel Akbar was, right? But the FIR registered about 1 month after the 9th May. Basically, in fact, the FIR against me were registered once I spoke in the Congress,
Unbelievable.
against harassment to me that FBI has informed me. So anyway, so the FIR says, this FIR complainant says that he walks up to a crowd of people
Correct.
who were attacking a military installation
In Melody.
in Melody somewhere in Islamabad, which I never knew where the military installation is. And he checked their phones, and on the phone he found me and him together, inciting them and telling them how to attack.
Attack them.
Right? So Barrister Ehtisham, in Pakistan, these kind of FIRs can be registered because the government or the state agencies want these FIRs to be registered. In this case, where the murder has been committed in an organized thing, as we now know from the story from the drop site, was sanctioned and planned by the army chief, how can the FIRs be registered?
Dr. Now there are there could possibly be two answers to that. One is theoretical, the other is practical. And you understand the unfortunate practicalities in Pakistan. So as far as the theory is concerned, nobody is above the law. As I just said, that there are several judgments of the superior courts that say that the applicant has the right to nominate anybody in the application. And at the time of registration of FIR, the investigating officer is not supposed to investigate about the truthfulness of the contents of the application. He just has to register and then investigate, right? But now, of course, we're talking about
Law
the
of
military
jungle.
establishment. We're talking about a jungle. We're talking about a jungle ka badshah.
Yep.
So of course that's not possible
So
right now in Pakistan.
Do they have any hotline or anything how they can reach out the legal team? A lot of people contact me, so how to reach out the legal team who can help us.
I think people know who to reach out over there, party members. But like I said, if somebody is reaching out to you,
Guys,
let
do
me
you
know.
Any? Yeah, I do. People contacting.
Let me know. I will get them.
Hotline or number?
No, unfortunately, no, we don't. We're talking about Pakistan.
Barki Sahab,
You know.
Barrister Sahab, I suspect, let me put a situation in front of you. When in February 1982, Hafiz al-Assad and the Syrian government destroy the town of Hama, and according to Robert Fisk, kill at least 10,000 people, can you go and register an FIR in Damascus against Hafiz al-Assad and his military? It will probably not work, right? So the response comes through the process of history. In this case, if we want to save Pakistan from the process of history, which has been set into motion by the Islamabad massacre, just like another process of history was set into motion on 25th of March 1971, and another process of history was set into motion by the murder of Akbar Bukhti in Balochistan. You have seen, how many years? 2006, and this is 2024, right? 18 years have passed. Have we found any peace in Balochistan? Have we found any peace in Balochistan? We haven't found. Did we find any peace after 25th March 1971 in former East Pakistan? We didn't find any peace. If we have to get peace in Pakistan, the pressure has to come from within Washington and London and European Union to change and arrest what is happening. The FIRs in Pakistan can only become valuable if there is pressure from here. Otherwise, no FIRs will be registered or ever investigated. What do you say?
I agree with you.
So that means we have to focus on how can we utilize United Nations, how we can utilize Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, how can we reach out to the American media, how can we reach out to the Congress and the Senate and human rights organizations. Unless we are able to reach out to these, to expect that lawyers in Pakistan will actually make any difference, I don't see any possibility of that.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Any more questions? You have a question?
You are talking about rule of law or all these legal issues, but at the same time you say that there is no rule of law in Pakistan.
Have I ever said there is rule of law in Pakistan?
No, you said that there is no rule of law in
Yeah,
Pakistan.
there's no
And
rule.
talking about rule of law in a country where there is no rule of law is, in my view, kind of useless. We will have to change our tactics somehow to put more pressure on legal issues. They will not do. For example, the assassination attempt on Imran Khan, there is no FIR on that 2 years down the line. So in this kind of situation, I think we should consider other avenues or other ways of changing our tactics.
Sir, we are peaceful people, but they have also blockaded, banned, registered criminal cases against us. What I fear as a keen student of history is if we, the Pakistani diasporas who love Pakistan, are unable to use the mechanisms that are available within United Nations, within United States, within London, within European Union, Pakistan is history. Because then the process of history will take shape. The Pakistan army will not be able to save Pakistan from the process of history. It is continuously unleashing. Anyone who has any suspicion should look at Balochistan. Have they been able to control the situation in Balochistan in the past 18 years? No. Every week you find a story. They always underestimate the figures. On 25th August, more than 100 Pakistan Army soldiers and officers were killed in Balochistan by BLA attack. I have seen the actual internal reports. They basically tell you the wrong figures. Every time they tell you the wrong figures. In few hours, more than 100 Pakistan Army soldiers and officers were shot down and killed by the BLA on 25th of August. Right? I've seen the internal reports where they have actually mentioned the details. Every week you look at Dawn newspaper, that is under a lot of pressure not to give the exact fact, but every week you find, just this last 48 hours, they mentioned 9 people were killed, 6 in KP and 3 in Balochistan. So every week you find 3 such stories. This is a pressure cooker that is going to explode unless we engage the international institutions in the form of United Nations, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, European Union institutions, International Court. This is the only way we can actually play a role now. Because they have given, with the Islamabad massacre, they have given a shut-up call to every process of democracy and protest. Who's going to protest now? When they're going to open machine gun fire, no one can come and protest. So this is how I think about it, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Can I ask a second question?
Yeah, but let it also wind it up. Yeah.
Second question is more with Colonel Akbar's side. I'm from military family and I know lot of army, and I cannot imagine Pakistan army to stoop so low. But from all the information that I get, the main problem in the army, I'm sure a lot of generals are corrupt, but main problem seems to be ISI and their C wing.
Agreed.
I think we should also make a call to ban that or close that organization. Because most of the problems are being run through them from the army side also.
Yeah, agreed. I'll add to this that many senior army officers, I can't even name the names, have told me in the past several years that ISI is a rogue organization and Pakistan Army needs to get rid of the ISI. Yeah. They are the senior most people. You can't imagine, you can't imagine how senior they are. But sir, what about the end user agreements? I think we're missing the point. This is a clear blatant violation of the US law.
So you see, first thing is that within the framework of Pakistan Army, the whole system has crashed. When you put up a regular army, it is governed by a lot of conventions, whether they are internal, whether checks and balances, so that it is so much of power that you don't go mad or you don't become a psychopath like Mr. Asim Munir. So this has been a gradual, deterioration, but it was taken to top speed in the last few years, where there is no holds bar after a certain rank level. Like a general's rank, there is no rule. How much you can loot, how much you can kill, how much you can, do anything.
Smuggle.
The whole spectrum. And they define it themselves for REs. They call it illegal spectrum. and they come out at DGI Sparse level and they say that, okay, if you look at into even this last 84th Formation Commanders Conference, what came out of that? The bottom line of this. So what they say is that we are the ones who are going to eradicate this illegal spectrum and then the crime nexus. People of Pakistan now take it that they are the perpetrators of this illegal spectrum. They are the controllers and they are the masters of it. So this is a very intertwined where ISI's role is, of course, pretty serious. But now what a person like me gets like shivers that the field army, the actual army has gotten into it. It is now free for all.
No, I fully understand.
You see,
what
it's
you're saying,
now we have gotten onto this Islamabad massacre. As I take it, it has crossed a certain threshold on both sides. You see, but I'll take it to that. And Dr. Munir came up with that thing, the term denial and genocide, the extreme level where you reach. But there is another thing which you are countering it with total imagination. You see, there is a journal who's, I'll put it in bracket, he's been my instructor. He talks a lot and he's, that intellectual, that on one side, there is a total denial. And on the other side, there is a total imagination. Bullshit. It's not that. Now the people of Pakistan have realized, and with this kind of an exercise, the world has gotten educated of what is happening in Pakistan in real time and what it is leading to. So I would say yes, this breakage of a system where this is the sixth largest army, which was to be controlled under certain conventions and rules, that has gone for a six.
Agreed. What about the end user agreement? It's a violation of the...
No, that is part of it. So what you do is...
So what can be done here in the US?
Sir,
It's a violation of the...
So that is where Barrister Saab, what he was saying, that we started off with that Rome statue and...
No, I think this has to be raised in Congress.
Sir, this has to be... Actually, it has to be raised in the district court here.
Oh.
There is a universal jurisdiction when you talked about transnational repression. There are multitude of, extended families which are getting exposed to and are vulnerable and are already hurt with these weapons which have gone into the hands of Pakistan Army, right? So at that point, and now we have proof what they, literally the people took the Remington 700, it was shown and nobody can deny it. That sniper rifle is the smoking gun right there. So all this...
And we have the footage of that.
Yes. And one more thing, even I actually, the whole entire DNI structure, they know more about what is happening in Pakistan. I'm talking as an American right now, right? My information is like 70% off the shelf, but 30% is coming out from there. When you put 2 plus 2 together, it is as good as what CIA station chief should be sending, but they don't, because it is routed through that very, 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 I should say, unscrupulous mechanism where by the time it gets to the executive or to the administration, it's all murky. So we can handle that. Yeah.
So I have another
very small question. There is a boycott going on in Pakistan regarding the products made by the Fauji or the Askari groups. My question is, if the PTI Pakistan has officially released some statement or officially boycotted all these products and the plots, and if not, why it is so?
No, I don't think that's the position of PTI. We have not formally advocated that boycott. I'm not saying that the party will not. Maybe in time they decide to do that. I'm not one of those people who makes that decision. But no, it's not. At the moment, it is a boycott coming from the people of Pakistan, from the social media groups over here, and but not on the official platform of PTI.
Yeah, go ahead. But I also want to wind it up. Yeah.
So we know for many years people, go missing in Balochistan, Sindh, and we are very familiar with that. And in the past, what has happened is any type of attack on the civilians has been under the cover of that this was, a terrorist activity that we are fighting against. So what has changed that the establishment and the government has become so strong that in the heart of Islamabad, they can open fire on civilians. So how did they become so bold that previously they had, a lot of things have been done in Pakistan, but they were always under the cover of something else. So what happened that they got so bold? And suddenly they just killed people, in the D-Chalk.
I think they have support from the outside. That only explains it. They're not defensive. Because even in Balochistan, they were defensive. But now they have solid support from somewhere.
And also it may have something to do with the psychological makeup of the man at the top.
Yes.
It's very simple. They killed Arshad Sharif, nothing happened. They tried to assassinate Imran Khan, nothing happened. They broke the constitution, nothing happened.
They stole the election, nothing happened.
They said, hey, it's our world.
Dr. Sab, out at the May 9th of the GHQ, they killed 25 people.
Once again, the PTI never documented anything.
Dr. Saab, I have a quick question. In the past, we have seen even against Pakistan when they were going, beyond, especially these limits, there were sanctions like FATF and all that. And even any country does that. The big, movers and shakers, they put sanctions, human rights sanctions and all that. But we are not seeing that against.
In the past, the sanction drives against Pakistan were being run or sponsored or pushed by India, right? Because of a geostrategic situation. Right now, the other interesting aspect is that Indians are watching and seeing, and they're interested in what's happening in Pakistan. They're letting it happen. They are on the beneficiary side of the situation in Pakistan. They are actually supporting the present regime of Pakistan. This is the first time that an Indian government is actually supporting what is happening in Pakistan.
Also, sir, how much annual assistance do we get from the United States? How much sanctions can the United States apply on Pakistan now?
Sir, aap mujhse, you understand this much better. United States is not only helping Pakistan through direct sanctions. There's a whole system of international support.
I understand, but do we receive
you see
much
in case of Venezuela, in COVID, which was a human right issue, the Venezuela was denied the IMF funds, which was right of the Venezuela, and its credit rating and its points was much, much, much better than Pakistan. In Pakistan, every law that violates the US conventions, European conventions has been violated. There has not been any sanction against Pakistan. If the European Union has dozens...
But do we receive anything from the United States?
We are receiving about $10 billion every year. What are you talking of? I will tell. We are receiving about $2 to $4 billion of World Bank, which was supposed to be coming from the development aid, which we have converted into the budgetary support, which in fact is actually total violation of the World Bank mandate, and this has been happening for a number of years. We are getting $2 to $3 billion from Asian Development Bank, which once again was supposed to be for development, small dams, water projects, education. But it's actually becoming budgetary support. We are getting another $2 billion at least from the UK aid, which is different, which is once again supposed to be for the development, but it's actually become budgetary support. And then, from UK. From UK. You're right. No, but that's not the only thing. Pakistan has also get GSP Plus access into the European Union. The Pakistani products will not actually...
Not from the United States.
Sir, everything is connected. You see, everything is connected. I mean, what is the IMF?
The best case scenario.
Sir, I'm rated inside Pakistan, and there is not a ripple of an effect on that. Yeah. There is no reaction to that.
That's the shameful.
And this is happening for the past 33 months now.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one more legal suggestion for Mufti Sahib and Barrister Sham. Can we get all the relatives of people who were killed or injured with American weapons in Pakistan and have their description or how they were injured and file a case here against people who fired on them?
We are exploring that. This is what is called universal jurisdiction. I was just asking Sham Saab to please look into it a little more. We've had some meetings with lawyers who explained to us what universal jurisdiction can do. And one of the biggest issues that we see, one, it's not that easy over here in the US. It's better to file in some of the European countries. They are more relaxed when it comes to that. But the biggest hurdle is that if you file a case, the victim or the family of that victim has to be present over here. Now, will they be allowed to leave Pakistan to come and file over here? Will they be willing to come and file that case over here? So that is one of the hurdles
They will
that we
disappear.
look at. Yeah.
But at least we should look into it.
We are definitely looking into it. Yes.
Because
So
if you file a case, the other benefit is there's a publicity. And negative publicity for these generals, I think, would be
I think things have gone beyond this, but I think with this, I'll thank you everybody. We'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for all of you coming here, and thank you once again for First Pakistan Global and the other associations for organizing that. Thank you so much. Thank you.